Okay, let's keep going, geographers. Let's work with this historical Placerville map. We're going to learn how to georeference the map, use this table of coordinates that we put together. We're going to get the map where it needs to be. That's the plan for this video. And so what I did is I went ahead and I copied the map itself, which we have here. I think it's on the bottom. Yeah, this Placerville points table. I copied that into my existing GeoDatabase 220 folder. So remember, this goes back to when we were initially working with shape files and just getting some stuff for the state of California into our GeoDatabase. That's where we're going to work. Okay? It's another way, rather than connecting to this GeoDatabase or that folder connection like we did, I think, in the last exercise. We're just going to work in here, learn some different ways to kind of keep all of our stuff together. So first move, assuming you've watched the first video of this series and you've got the coordinates and all of that stuff, copy over the map and the points Excel file. Let me open this up. So this, and I'll zoom in, this is what I got. I'm pretty sure it's right. I'm relatively sure it's right. Let me move this here so you can look at it. Feel free, if you want to, pause the video, check your work. It might be in slightly different order depending on how you went around the map, which direction you went, or whatever. But this is what we should have. Okay? And remember, as discussed in this first video of this exercise, we need to make sure we have the negatives for longitude, positive values for latitude. So if you got that, you're good. Another thing in here, something I don't think I mentioned before, within Excel and a lot of programs like this, we have multiple worksheets that we can use. So down here, this little tab says Sheet 1. That's referring to this right here. And this plus sign, if I left-click that, we get Sheet 2 and we get a totally blank space. So we can just keep going. Okay, so it's a way to keep multiple data sets in one space. Okay, maybe I had a few maps in this area and I needed to do this stuff and I didn't want to keep them in the same worksheet for some reason. Well, this is a way to separate my data, right? Or maybe, this is for this, what was it, 1893 map. Maybe I have one from 1915 as well, and I want to have that separate. And if I did this, one thing I would want to do is right-click on these, hit rename, and call it something meaningful, right? Again, so I can make sense of what these are. I'm not going to rename it right now. In fact, I'm going to delete this one because I don't need it. But we'll see momentarily why it's good to name all of this stuff, to be thorough and detail focused with this. But anyway, make sure you got this. Bring it in here. I'm going to go ahead and close this. And once you have these in here, open up that GeoDatabase 220 ArcMap or ArcGIS map project, whatever we technically call it. And in the catalog pane, you should see our existing shape files that we played with. We've got this GeoDatabase. And in this exercise, we did this California level stuff. In the previous exercise, we linked to the Antelope Valley, or we linked to, rather, this database to edit and create that stream data from that aerial photo, right? And you can see it's here. It's all saved in one space. We can access it in different locations. And now you should also see the map and then the Excel table. And if you don't, right-click, hit refresh, and everything should be revealed, right? And if you don't see it in here, after hitting refresh, it means you didn't save or copy the files into the right location. So double check all that. All right, so we have this here. what we'll do first is bring in our points. And with an Excel file, we can see this through catalog, which is amazing. It took them a while to get to the point where we could read Excel files here. That always amazes me. And when we hit the little arrow drop down thing and it expands, we see this sheet 1 worksheet. And they put a $sign on the end. I don't know why, just because we do. So this is why if we have multiple worksheets in an Excel file, we want to be clear, right? Because it's very difficult to remember which one was it. Was it, sheet 5 or sheet 7 that I needed for this thing? We only have one, so it's not a big deal. So we're going to left click and drag this over, release your mouse, and it brings it into the contents pane. It's not going to do anything because it's just a table, but it's there, right? And we can right click and hit open. And in here, this is funny, it slaps it on the back, but we've got our latitude and longitude values. Those look good. And if there's any question, this is just good habit to have, if you make a table of data of any kind, you bring it in. First move should be open it up, right? Right click, open, make sure it looks correct. And it doesn't say null all the way down, meaning that there's some error, it can't read it, the data just effectively vanish within ArcGIS. So check that just to make sure you're off to a good start, right? This looks good. The object ID, this is something that ArcGIS is just going to add in here. It's a unique identifier. We don't need to worry about it. It's something that the computer is going to worry about as we're doing stuff here. So this looks good. I'm going to close that. So now, in fact, thinking about it, I shouldn't even bring this in here because we've already got stuff here. This is already something that we've done. Let's not do this. Let's not work in here. Instead of bringing this in here, if you brought it in here, no big deal. Leave it. But instead, go ahead and in Insert, this tab up here, go New Map. And it'll think a little bit. And it'll make a new one over here. It's thinking, it's loading stuff. And you can see with this up at the top, we have Map. This is our first one. And then Map 1. And again, it's a case where this is silly to just keep doing this. If we keep working in here, which we most likely we'll have Map 2, Map 5, Map 13, whatever. It gets confusing. So first move, let's right click where it says Map 1, go down to Properties, bring this over, and in name, we're going to call it, let's just call it Placerville. Because that's the map we're going to work with. And I'll hit OK. All right, so now, and this other one, I'm just going to leave it as map. It's fine. But anything else in here, I'm going to go ahead and rename that so I know exactly what I'm dealing with. It's going to make life easier. All right, so now, let's bring this sheet 1 $sign in. If it came in, properly the first time, great. We shouldn't have to check it, but we can do it just to make sure everything's good. Okay, everything's good. Cool. I'm going to go ahead and hit save up at the top just because I've been doing stuff. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get in and we're going to turn this table into actual points. And we can do that because we have latitude and longitude values. So we're going to see where these things actually intersect, and that's where the point is going to go. Okay, so we right click where it says sheet 1, and you come down here, and it's create points from table. Okay, it used to be display XY data. They've changed the way this is described, so sometimes if you're using an older version of the program, it might look weird. But these days, create points from table, which honestly, that's exactly what we're doing. It's a little more clear and obvious. And in here, we're going to do XY table to point. Okay? So we're going to go ahead. In fact, we're just going to do it like this. So just left click on XY table to point. This event layer, it's more of a temporary thing, which we could kind of do here, but I don't want to do it. No, we're gonna do this one. We're gonna make something here. So don't worry about the difference between that. All right, so this pops up. Our input table, sheet 1. Yeah, A, that's the only table we got in here. B, it's the one we right-clicked on. The output feature class is just gonna say sheet 1 and append this little XY table to point thing on the back of it. I don't like that. That doesn't really necessarily make sense, especially if I'm doing multiple things. It is saving in our 220 geodatabase. I'm cool with that. It's not going to save to a data set, and I'm actually cool with that too. So we're going to save it in here, but I'm going to call this, how about, I mean, call it whatever, but I'll call it Pville ref points, PNT. I'm just trying to keep it short, simple, but I'll remember what this is. Placerville reference points, because I'm georeferencing. That makes sense in my head. You can call it whatever, but just make sure you know what this thing is, what you're calling it. Okay, what's cool here is that because we used lat and long for our headers in the table, ArcGIS knows exactly where to put those. So it's looking for that, and it fills this in automatically. If I had some other clever header name that the program didn't recognize, I'd have to go in and select this, right? But because we just did lat and long, totally cool. So we're set there. We have no Z field, so we don't need to worry about that. And then the real key thing is this coordinate system part. Now it's just defaulting to this generic one that it's the map itself is currently set to. We don't want to do that because our data were not gathered or collected in this WGS 1984. This specific datum and coordinate system did not exist at the time of our map and when these latitude and longitude coordinates were selected, right? So to do this, it could draw the points and maybe they're close to where they are, but they're certainly not accurate at all. In some cases, I mean, the difference could be hundreds of feet. If you're lucky, maybe it's off by 10 feet or something like that. We don't really know. It kind of depends on a lot of stuff going on here. But regardless, we want accuracy. We want to do good work. So we're not going to do that. We're going to select this globe. And sorry, everything's going on my other screen. And in here, we're going to select the proper coordinate system. I'm going to go ahead and close that world layer. Okay. We're going to use, I don't think we have in projected, do we? Yeah, we don't even have the option. So we got to use the geographic coordinate system. And we want to go into spheroid based, which is basically saying old school. Okay. And we're going to use Clark 1866. Okay, and we're going to do this because A, I'm telling you, but B, our map was from 1893, right? Pretty sure. Yes, 1893. So this is what was being used for mapping and surveying and all that at the time. So we're just going to use this one here. Select that, left click, hit OK, and that should change, right? And that way it knows that when you're placing this latitude and longitude stuff, use this system, right? That has a different origin, a different starting point than the other stuff. It's kind of weird to think about, right? You think, isn't the equator and the prime meridian the same thing? But no, it's how the Earth itself is actually drawn. What's the exact shape of the Earth, and how do we model that in this mapping environment? All of these things are different ways to approach this, to represent the planet. So it's very crucial we think about that. And I know this because I read this stuff, and you can dig into the metadata as well as just the history of these things and the mapping things and all of that. And with newer maps, quite often, the nice thing is you'll be able to read it on there. It'll say North American datum of 1927 or 1983 or whatever, and you look for that stuff, and that's how you know to select it. Okay, so we got this. Looks like this. I'm going to hit OK. It's going to think. It's going to draw. Gorgeous. Okay, so we have our points. I'm going to make them stand out a little more so we can see them. So yeah, they're in this 4x4 arrangement like they should be. We can see Placerville right here and Diamond Springs and Pleasant Valley, all of these things from the map. So that already, it's looking good, right? Just a quick visual assessment. If you do this and it's not in this location, right? You're out in Wyoming or in the ocean or whatever, something went wrong. And it's either going to be your points aren't correct, right? The actual latitude and longitude values. Click on one of these here. Right, so, this one, 38.83333, latitude, negative 120.8333. That's where it should be. So it's either these numbers are wrong or you didn't pick the right datum, right? That Clark 1866. Those are the two things that would put this in the wrong place. But if you see this, you're good. You're set. And back in the catalog, we look at our geodatabase, we have these Placerville reference points. So these were made permanent. The event layer wouldn't make a feature class. It's just kind of this temporary thing of points. That used to be all you could do. And it worked for some things, but then when you tried to actually use the points, you had to export them to a feature class. Anyway, it was a whole deal. So that's why we did this. And we didn't put it in our Antelope Valley or California data set because we're using that Clark 1866 reference point. Okay? You dig, you follow. That's the idea. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to bring in our, actually I lied to you, right now we're going to save. Then what we're going to do is we're going to bring in our Placerville map. So I'm going to left click, hold and drag, bring it in. Going to ask me, hey baby, you want some statistics here? Yeah, I do. Go ahead and hit yes. It tells you, allows for a better display of your data. Blah, 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 blah. It just means there's going to be a little extra file that's made. It works. If you want, you can say always use this choice. I never click these because I'm teaching this stuff all the time, and I want to show these windows popping up. But if I were just working in an office doing this for whatever, yeah, I would check all of these because, yeah, why wouldn't you do this? So I'm going to hit yes. It's going to think. It's going to bring it in. But again, just like our table, it's not going to show anything because, look up in the right, unknown coordinate system. It's saying, look, I don't know where this goes, right? I can bring it in. I get that part, but I don't know where to place it, right? It's missing that world file. Okay? So that's fine that we get this error up here. I'm going to close that. That's the whole point of all of this stuff. So I brought it in. It's selected here. What I want to do is click imagery up at the top, right? And then I want to click georeference. And that will open up a new tab. I don't know why. It doesn't just automatically bring that in. When you bring some raster image in with a unknown spatial reference, like of course we're going to want a georeference, but it doesn't. So you go imagery, hit georeference, and then this pops up and has all the tools we need to reference this thing, to place it right where it belongs. And so our first move, we're going to hit fit to display. Okay, and it's going to just draw it right there. Okay, where it's like, I don't know what, here? Is this where you want it? That's the that's just the, first thing to kind of get it into a location. It's not in the proper spot at all, right? But that's okay. And one thing you can do, here's a deal. In fact, I'm trying to think, best practice. It's this geographic coordinate system. It's ugly. It's squat. I don't like it. Yeah, let's go ahead. Yeah, okay, we're gonna make a new deal. All right, okay, sorry, I'm making this up as I go. Let's right click. First thing here, right click, properties. I know I say first thing to everything, just go with it. Coordinate systems. And let's select, and what we're gonna be doing here is simply, the display. So it doesn't look so dumpy. We're not affecting the data, but we're affecting how it actually looks. And let's, I'm thinking where we are. Let's go ahead and use, let's do UTM, which is one I like to work in, and North America. And UTM, I don't think we did that. Yeah, because we use state plane and teal albers there. UTM, it stands for Universal Transverse Mercator. I think it's a great system to work with when it comes to field mapping and heading out into the field for whatever, exploring the area, gathering data, bringing it back. It works really well with GPS and all of that. So that's what I just kind of like to initially work in. And we got options throughout here. Okay, these different possibilities right here. We could do but I like my NAD. Sorry, again, this is just, kind of thinking about it as we go through. Let's do the NAD 1983. Don't worry about the 2011 thing. And as we come down here, we'll see it's all this NAD 83, UTM, but then zone, and we have a bunch of different options. California it covers two zones, or the two zones cover it, 10 and 11. Okay? And it's a case that the dividing thing, up in Northern California, where it's coming straight down that border with Nevada, and it hits Lake Tahoe, basically that's that border between 10 and 11. So in this case, working up in Northern California, zone 10, that's great. If I was down in LA, it'd be zone 11. Yeah, but I'm going to do zone 10 and hit apply just to show that difference. And it kind of screwed up my map there. But we're not worried about that because that's just kind of generically displayed. But my points look a little more rectangular. That looks a little better right off the bat. And it doesn't really matter, but I think just for this so we can see it, we're going to make it look good. So we're going to hit OK with that. And that's when we actually georeference it. We're going to georeference it using this coordinate system too. So the map itself is already in this nice projected one. Okay. Okay. So now let's fit to display again. Oh wait, whoops, I gotta select that. Yeah, so shoot, I got too ahead of myself here. This one, make sure you're selecting this and hit fit to display. Oh, did I break it? Hold on. Okay, hold on. What did I do? Yeah, let's do this. I'm just gonna, if you didn't do this, don't worry about it. You have unsaved edits. Just go, yeah, I want to continue. I don't want this. I made a horrible mistake. Okay. So if you did, like I did, just hit fit to display, and you got this weirdness, you can close it. And then just go back to imagery, georeference. Okay, I'm making sure I'm selected here, and then I'm going to hit fit to display. If you didn't do what I just did, don't worry about it. You're already here. It already looks like this. But now, okay, just fitting to display. Everything's pretty close. It's lined up, but still, that doesn't work. That's not good enough for what we're doing. So I'm going to start in this northwest corner of the map, or the upper left. And I'm going to zoom in right up here. Remember, just hit Shift and left click and hold to draw that little rectangle to zoom in there. I'm going to let it, catch up and draw it in its full resolution. And so you can see, here's the actual point. The red represents where in geographic space that corner should be. Okay? This here is the actual meeting of 39 degrees north, 121 degrees west. And if I click on this, it should say, 39 and negative 121, right? So everything's looking good. It's all lining up. So what I want to do is I want to come up here and add a control point. And so I click on that. It gives me this little crosshairs looking cursor, and it says from point, parentheses, source. I'm going to click on the map first. Okay. Once I just left click once, it's going to put a vertex right there, and then it's got this little, dashed line chain thing. And what I need to do is then click on the spot where I want this vertex to be snapped to. So in this case, this point that I have. And it snaps to it. You should notice that as you bring your cursor around here. And so I'm going to bring it here, make sure it snaps, make sure it says, Pville _ ref points, whatever point. And I just left click there. And it's going to adjust it. Right? So it's just click once on the map and then click one more time where you want that thing to be moved to. All right, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Let it redraw. And what you can do if you're working with an actual mouse with that scrolling wheel in the middle is I can push down on it. And when I do that, it does this pan function. So it moves it over. And I'm going to go to the next one of these. And I'm going to work systematically. And it's because sometimes when you're doing this, and if I were to do this here, and this one's not too bad because it's all pretty systematic. But if I had some other points, I think maybe your next, the time when we do this will be a little different. Sometimes you get it where you do 2 points close together, and it just distorts the whole image. Right? So you want to spread this out. You want to go kind of over to the other side. I'll zoom in to this guy. Oh, is it not going to let me? Oh, well, that's all right. Well, I'm too lazy to do that. I'll just go this way. I want to come close to it. And you want to zoom in to the point where you can really see exactly where you're clicking, right? This is pixelated, but I'm going to pick, and I'm going to be consistent as I go through here. I'm going to pick a consistent spot with these lines that I have. So you can see the pixels. It's kind of thick in this area. I can click all over the place. I'm going to go for as close to the middle as I can get, right? Looking at the pixels, seeing where it is, trying to line up in the center, and I'm going to do that every time for all of these. So I left click here, I bring it up here, and it's going to adjust it. And if I zoom back out, I'm going to see it's just adjusting this thing. It's getting it closer and closer. Now these look pretty good, but I don't care. I'm still going in here, right? There's a chance that it's not perfect. And you can see as I get closer in, it's not. Pretty close, but it's not. I'm going to left click and bring that there. Oh, and did it do it? Oh, and did it do it? Here we go. Here's an example where let's move out this way. So yeah, it's kind of freaking out because it's trying to adjust this stuff. Now I think I have a few options. Let's try this. It's not a big deal if this happens. The first thing I'm going to try is this transformation option. And so what this is we're clicking reference points here.
But
But it's going to do some underlying math, behind the scenes, under the hood of all this stuff to really fully adjust the image. Okay, it's going to, tug a little bit here, but also tug this way. It's way more complicated than it might seem to be, right? And it's tricky when you have this image that's in one rectangular shape initially, and you're trying to fit it to something that might distort that rectangle. And that's exactly what is happening here. Why it doesn't just kind of shift over a little bit. Why we have all this distortion. I'm guessing we're gonna see. It's a hypothesis. Click that zero order, son of a gun. That was the worst thing you could do, Mike. Okay, so that didn't work. My hypothesis failed. We're not going to do that. Instead, and I mean, I could force it here too, but instead what I'm going to try, let's click on control point table. And let's see, I haven't done this in this new. What happens if I just uncheck it? Does it just, is it still there though? Oh, I wonder. Ho. And I'll say, so this stuff, they have done a lot of improvements to georeferencing since the Dark Ages when I first started doing this, the control point table. It's kind of nicer, I think, in the options you have, and have a little more control compared to what we had previously. But I still got to figure it out because I don't do this much anymore. Okay, so now, but then here. Here's an issue. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. Go into map. Click on this explore thing to get back to my normal cursor. I'm going to move it up here. And I'm going to come down to this corner. Let's try that. And I'm going to shift. Come down here. I'm going to get close. You can see it is close, but it's not perfectly lined up. So I'm going to use this just to get in here. Then I'm going to go back to georeference. I'll go add control points. And I'm going to say that's centered. It's not the end of the world if we're a little off. But you still want to do quality work as good as you can, right? So I'll move that over. And yeah, that is looking good. In the sense that it's not all distorted and weird. Okay, then what I'll do is I'll come over to this corner. And so I want to basically pin the corner so I won't have that weird twisting that goes on as I continue to do this. And just to be safe, and it's a slow process. It's a big map file. Size-wise, it's doing a lot of work. My computer fan is whirring, it's thinking. There's a lot going on here, so be patient with it. But go to this upper right or northeast corner. Zoom in. And this is also a case. I mean, this is kind of zen when you think about it. It's a case where you're just going around, you're clicking, you're doing tedious, repetitive stuff. But it can be, I think it kind of brings some peace as you go about. It's a way you don't really have to think, but you're still kind of thinking. Perfect opportunity to, watch some TV or have some music going in the background, and you just kind of do this. You're paying attention to this, but you have some other distractions and just get lost in it. But that's how we, move through here. Now, here's something interesting, right? It doesn't line up perfectly right here. Okay, and that's because it can only do so much. If I come back out, let's get to the main thing here. Back with me, I'm going to right click and just go to zoom to layer on my reference points. Then I'm going to immediately left click back on the map so all this stuff goes to the right spot. Right, so if I pull all the way out, it looks good, as is in this current spot. but it's not clearly, because if I come right back here, this one isn't perfectly lined up. Oh, and another thing I can do, let's check this number 3 again, right, to have that go right back. And this time that doesn't get all weird. In fact, let's look in here. Come on. Come on, mouse. Yeah, it's still off, still not perfectly lined up. I don't know if turning that on, yeah, that changes it a little bit. You see that? You see that? So this number 3 control point, it's pulling it over here, but then this one is pulling it over here, and there's a battle going on where it's trying to fit it perfectly. And that's where this transformation stuff comes into play. Right now, because we have 6 control points, we can do the second order polynomial, okay? A different way to try to fit this stuff. And if you want to get into the math of like what's actually happening with this stuff, then, Esri Help website has this. You can just Google, georeference transformation explanation or whatever. And there's some good stuff on there if you care. You don't really need to know if you don't want to. But if I left click there, well, that was terrible. Oh, because I haven't done it. Okay, so don't do that. I thought we could show it there. Go back to the first order. Polynomial. What I want to do before I do that, I want to get in here and put a lot more control points. And the idea is, God, it is thinking hard. The idea is go through, before you do any of these transformations, really what you should do is go to all of your points, right? And get them all referenced. So just, start down, go. At this point, being as systematic as possible isn't crucial, but just keep going around. And again, it might be close, but try to make it perfect. And we want to, even if it was perfect, we still want to do this. Basically, just, click and click again in the same spot, because we want to have it fixed there. We don't just want to say, yeah, that looks good. We want to say, no, this is where it should be, right? So do that for all 16 of these things. I am not going to do that for all 16 right now because that would be boring to just watch me continue to do this. But let me try, and because it's so slow, let me try moving this over here. Let's get this guy. Draw. Let's see, and if I go back out, let's do this. Let me see if the transformation, and see, I can, start to get some other ones like 10 control points. I can do this third order or this spline. And the idea with this is try, okay, good, that didn't destroy it. Though it's kind of hard to, let's see if I can clear that too. Sorry, I'm kind of having my own fun here. Is there, well, I don't think it matters. Okay, in fact, I'm just going to turn that off. So there, it didn't freak out, but you can see as you play with this, it's going to bend stuff a little bit, look a little different as you go. That's the transformation idea, okay? So go through and get every single control point linked in here. Once you've done that, make sure to hit save, right? In fact, you can hit save as you're going through and it'll update the whole deal. But it's actually saying, okay, we're going to remember this. We're going to keep it this way, right? So that the next time you bring this exact file into a map, it puts it there in that proper location. You don't have to do this every single time. So that hitting save, that's key, right? But go through, make sure you get every single point in there, play around with the transformations, find the one that you think fits as many points as possible. as closely as possible. And from there, save what you got, right? And the next video, we'll get into, okay, what are we going to do with this now? We have this historical map in the proper location. Now what? Well, we'll get into it. All right? All right, so have fun. Go Zen. Enjoy.